Hello, everybody. This is Joseph Pasek, and welcome to the Fired Up Network. Welcome to Fired Up Live, and welcome to 2025. I'm going to be joined by a few members here, the elite staff of the Fired Up Network. Stormin Norman Rumack, the broadcasting legend. Also, the Hall of Famer, John Freeman Nelson. And we'll be joined by the coach, Carmen Asako. And then we'll be joined hopefully by Justin Levine to talk about the World Juniors and also look at ladies hockey. But right now, let's see if he has his tank top on since it's minus 22 Celsius. And I have breaking news. My good friend Stormin Norman Rumack is here. We'll be joined by John Freeman Nelson. A couple seconds. Breaking news. As you know, and no kidding aside here, uh, Trudeau has stepped down. All right. Trudeau has stepped down. Now, Norm, as you know, who am I? I'm the president of the provinces of Canada. I was contacted this morning. I was contacted this morning by who plays in the Shark Tank there, Kevin O'Leary, for me to be the president of the provinces of Canada, North America. John Freeman Nelson is here. Yes, John, you're the American here. Trudeau has stepped down, and
Yeah.
they want me to run for the Canadian North American, swing here. Now, my only question, the big question, still hasn't said anything. That's Norm Rumack there. If we're going to keep the Canadian national anthem or the North American national anthem. So, John, quit pointing fingers at me already. All right,
I was trying to
what
point
should
that
we do?
Norm.
Yeah, all right,
Uh,
Norm, point to him.
I was trying to figure out where Norm was and where both of you were. Uh, whoa,
Well,
lovely feedback to start things off. Dude, let your anthem be your anthem, and let our anthem be our anthem. Why do you want to? Why do you want to blend the two? This isn't like when you have a by country sporting event where you play both anthems now, and you're trying to make sure that one is above the other. Yeah, it's like you got to have both anthems, man. You got to have both anthems.
so, John, and then I'll get to Norm. John, are you now officially Canadian? If we move to America, are we North American? Are we Canadian? Or what's going on here?
Well, I know that the beaver is a noble animal. That much I do know.
Are you
But
sure?
yeah, I think so. The beaver is a noble beast. But no, dude, just let us be who we are. And let Americans are Americans, Canadians are Canadians. Near the twain shall meet, and let the peace bridge be the peace bridge. Everything is fine.
All right, Norm, you're the eldest one here on this staff right now. Do you like to be North American or do you like to be Canadian American?
Oh,
I'm proud to be Canadian. I'm honored that I got to go to school in the States, graduate school at Syracuse. Great school, had a great time.
What
And a
school
lot
is
of
that?
great
No
people.
wonder I'm wearing orange.
Yeah, it's good choice, Joe. Good choice. But yeah, beyond that, I'm proud to be Canadian. We're respected around the world for the kind of country that we are. We're not perfect. Obviously, we've got things we need to fix up and do better back home here. But John's barking up the right tree. We've got a very proud history. We're respected for being peacekeepers. We're respected for not intervening in other countries' affairs, barring something very unusual. And I remember when I went to Europe in 1985 on my little 6-month trip, like a lot of Canadians do, and everywhere I went, when people saw I had a maple leaf flag on my windbreaker, I got the royal treatment. In fact, one guy I didn't know from the Man on the Moon in Spain offered me $100 US just to take my jacket. I said no. That was having a maple leaf flag on your jacket's almost as good as carrying a passport. It really is. Until you travel, you don't realize the respect our nation has around the world, and I'm proud of that. And I don't want to be known as anything else other than Canadian.
I mean, Norm. I know that Joe is not a lumberjack or a fur trader. I know that he doesn't live in an igloo, eat blubber, or own a dog sled. I know that he doesn't know Jimmy, Sally, or Susie, although I'm very certain that he thinks they're really, really nice. I know that he has a prime minister and I have a president. I know that Joe speaks English and French on occasion, not
And
American.
Spanish.
And I know that he pronounces it about, even though there are some that do pronounce it a boot. I know that there are some north of the border that can sew their country's flag on a backpack. And to your point, Norm, I know that folks believe in peacekeeping, not policing, diversity, not assimilation, and that the beaver is truly a proud and noble animal. I know that a toque is a hat. I have them. I know that a Chesterfield is a couch. And I know that they're north of the Peace Bridge, and there in Canada, it is pronounced Z, not Z, Z. I know you're the second largest landmass, the first nation of hockey, and to some, the best part of North America. I know that his name is Joe and that he is Canadian. But that is the end of it right there. Just let it be. Just Canadians are Canadians, Americans are Americans, and ne'er the twain shall meet.
Yeah.
The only difference, and Norm will agree with this, right? Let us live. We live in Canada. You live in the United States. I take your money. You take my money. How
Yeah.
about that? That's the fair trade, free trade. Norm, would you want American money or Canadian money?
I'll take Canadian everything.
Okay,
See,
well, I will too because of the exchange rate right now, my friend. That's how it usually traditionally. I will take it 30 cents on the dollar.
all right, we're going to be joined by Carmen Asako hopefully soon, so we'll discuss a little bit of soccer. And since Norm is here, and last time Norm did not get a chance to say anything about his Chelsea
Oh
Blues. All
God.
right, and I know John is looking forward to this discussion. So go ahead, Norm. The
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Well, they've had a surprisingly nice start to the first half of the season under Enzo Maresca. I think he's done a great job. It's the youngest team in the Premier League, average age. And, there's going to be a few bumps in the road, like lately. They had 2 draws in their last 4 games. So they dropped a few points. But if you'd asked any Chelsea supporter or anybody with the club if they thought they'd be happy being in 4th spot at the turn of the new year, I think they'd be quite happy with that. So, yeah, I think the team's going in the right direction. Cole Palmer is an absolute incredible, lost for words. He really, I think after a year, we can say he seems to be a generational talent. Just brilliant what he can do with the ball, either setting up goals or scoring his own. And we're really blessed to have got him from Manchester City for a pretty reasonably cheap fee, comparatively speaking. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with where they're at. Like I say, they've had a few bumps in the road lately, but not surprised. They're missing Wesley Fofana. Reece James has hardly played any games, although he's coming back now. So with 2 key defenders out, it's understandable there might be a little bit of a drop off, but our academy is still one of the best in the world. And they've added a few. Tyreek George and Josh Achumpong have been added to the first team from the academy. So that was pretty nice. And, rumor has it that Chelsea might be pursuing Mark Gahey from Crystal Palace, a Chelsea Academy grad. He's become a solid player. He switched to Palace because he was going to be a hard time for him to get much playing time ahead of Reece James. But anyway, there's a reason to be optimistic, and hopefully it'll continue in that direction without many more injuries, because injuries can be devastating when you lose key players in every sport, in any sport, as everybody knows. So that's my little speech about the Chels. So thank you, Joe, and
Here,
thank you,
here,
Johnny.
the coach has just chimed in here. What a way we were talking about, Chelsea. But here's a true North American. So as you know, Trudeau has stepped down today, and Trump saying Canada is going to be the 51st state in the United States of I don't know. All right. So are you Canadian? Are you American? Are you North American? What about the Canadian national anthem? Are you going to sing the American national anthem? What's going on, Carm? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, guys. You know what? I have no idea, man. Honestly, and probably that's the most honest thing any political analyst could say right now is I have no idea. So,
All right. So, picking up on soccer term, what do you think of Chelsea this year, sitting in fourth position?
yeah, I mean, they were in second position, fighting for the top spot. But Maresca's hell bent on keep saying that they're not ready for a title run. They're not ready for a title run. Uh, whether that's the reverse psychology or whatever it is, they do have a young team, but it's probably kind of, I feel it's like a defeatist attitude, a mentality that we're giving you an excuse to finish fourth. Champions League is enough, which, if you asked me, in the beginning of the year, if that was enough for Chelsea, I would have said absolutely. But seeing the squad depth, seeing that the young players aren't so young anymore, seeing that they have probably the best player in the league right now, arguably, in Palmer, I think that they should really set their standards a little higher.
All right, I'm going to go to John here. John, I know you cover MLS for soccer down here. You could see it here on Fired Up Network and Soccer Down Here Network. Now, TFC, what's going on with Insigne? I'll go to Carmen after and then Norm. But what's the latest you hear, John, on TFC, Insigne, and everything like that?
Probably something along the lines of Como, and that comes from the analysis from our Nick Alifi. And the way that Nick is looking at it is that when you've got 15.4 on the books, and that salary alone was more than two teams in Major League Soccer last season. And then if you just take out senior level salaries, you're talking that puts him middle of the pack as an individual up against 9 or 11 of the other clubs in Major League Soccer when it came to their senior level salaries. So if Insigne, whose role has been checkered and his time has been checkered at Toronto FC, can be found a place to go play where it's not riddled by injuries, riddled by trying to get coaches fired, walking out of meetings involving interim coaches, that kind of a thing. More power to you. And what that also does, that gives you more room to navigate under the salary cap and gives you to bring in another DP. So we were trying to itemize a location for him in Serie A. More that it was being analyzed, it looked like Como made the most sense, because then if you're not going to other places that could be construed as rivals for past locations for Insigne from his time in Serie A. So I would say Como is the leader in the clubhouse trying to find him a new home.
All right, Carm, what do you say?
Well, it's still an absolute disaster there. It's just the question is how much money they're going to lose on him. Are they going to buy out? What's the buyout? How much are they going to have to spend to make him go or let him go to a place like Como? He hasn't lived up to his billing. He still has till 2026. Do they wait for announcing a manager? I mean, that would be. I think that this is almost like a kind of affront for the fact that they haven't chosen a manager, or they haven't. They've interviewed a whole bunch of people apparently, and they're just still not set on a manager. And there's all kinds of rumors. It's the new Canadian soccer rumor that everyone's trying to sell, everyone's trying to move, and you know what? The irony is the Toronto soccer scene or the Canadian soccer scene might become that 51st state. So you might see Vancouver in San Antonio very soon, because and MLS might get its ultimate wish of being a totally American league. Well, I'm not sure if it's an ultimate wish, but it may look like that because Montreal's obviously going younger, looking to sell more players, and Toronto FC. I've heard that Keith Pelly's not so worried about soccer anymore. He's more worried about the Raptors and the Leafs, and And I can say for certain that the Toronto FC has lost money in the first time in many years last year, and could be a great fit for all kinds of people. But right now, Jason Hernandez is trying to right the ship, but I'm not so sure that he's in a position, with experience to be able to do that. So they need to make some moves. They need to make some decisions right away. But for me, right now is the perfect time to say, hey, all right, Bobby Smirnos, it's been a lot of talk. Let's give him an opportunity. And if he fails, okay, whatever. If he does well, then it's a great story. So right now, the Toronto FC has a lot more problems than Lorenzo Insigne. And they still have a lot of, the assistant coaches, John Herdman's kind of leftovers are still there. They still have to take care of them. There's all kinds of situations that are still kind of left in the air. And I think it's kind of showing us that Keith Pelly is not really interested so much in TFC. And I hear the Argos aren't that far behind either.
Okay, before I get to Norm, I have to ask this question, John, all right? He mentions a new manager, and he doesn't mention if he's got a phone call from Keith, what's his name? All right?
They've interviewed probably everyone on the street. They've interviewed, who knows how many coaches, but no, they haven't interviewed me, no.
All right, so sit back here. Since we established already,
But
Norm,
Johnny already knows
I'm
who
the
the
president
coach
of the
is.
provinces of Canada. No, I'm the president.
Johnny already knows who the coach is, I'm sure.
Pelly, hold on. You don't care about soccer. Give it to Norm. He cares about soccer. You don't care about the Argos. They won the Grey Cup. How many people are talking about it? You care about Maple Leafs restaurant, Maple Leaf jerseys, Maple Leaf. They will never win the Stanley Cup, even if they're first place in the conference. All right, that's enough. Okay, and the Raptors. I'm going to ask Norm, because me and Norm, we know each other 30, 35 years. We're sitting at Air Canada Center at the height of the Raptors. At the height when Vince Carter was Vince Saturday, when I was taking the corporate jet, Air Canada, by the way. And how many empty seats were there, Norm?
Well, actually, I mean, to me, the empty seats that we used to observe, and there was a lot of them in the lower bowl. So those are primetime tickets. But that was more in the Chris Bosh era. It was after Vince left. And so then they made an arrangement, MLSE. I apologize if I got it wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm pretty close to accurate. And Johnny will back me up on this, or Carm will, that soon after, Maple Leaf season ticket holders in the Platinum section had to buy Raptors season tickets to keep their Leaf tickets. That was part of the deal for those sitting in the Platinums. So therefore, Raptors could avoid dips in their attendance when they struggled, and struggle is the nicest word that you can use on the air to describe what they are now. And my God, the one thing that's a common thread in MLS and E, other than the Argonauts, is lengthy rebuilds. The Maple Leafs at the top of the list for rebuilds and retries for a Stanley Cup. And then the Raptors have quickly diminished from a championship club. And, we were all talking about that here on the Fired Up Network not so long ago. And now their rebuild is rather lengthy. And not that it's MLS and E, but the Blue Jays have been rebuilding for how long? And their best players are playing where? Teoscar, he's done all right for himself, and yet they didn't think he was good enough for Toronto. Seems to me he's a pretty popular. I hear his jersey isn't that far behind some of their storied players on the LA Dodger roster, Teoscar. That's how popular he is, and he just got himself a brand new smacking deal worth a lot of coinage. So seems to me that there's something in the water in Toronto about rebuilds being lengthy and never ending.
All right, Carm, let me ask you, you coach the youngsters and all that, men and ladies and all that. Do you feel, and this is critical because next year, Canada has a World Cup soccer with America and Mexico. Do you feel it's dwindling down, or you think it's still on the rise, soccer here in Canada?
It's an irony. That's what it is. It's a living irony, this whole soccer community right now. I was at Kamal Miller's wedding on Saturday.
Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. I was actually one of his best mates is the center back
Thanks for inviting me.
for Atlanta, who was there. We won't get into stories, but he's a good kid. He's a good kid, Johnny. Robinson was there because he was a Syracuse. He was a Syracuse teammate.
Tie it in with Norm now. No wonder Norm likes
Oh
you.
boy,
Oh,
Kamal Miller's a
Syracuse-
legend at Syracuse. There, Norm.
Yeah,
So-
Syracuse did win the NCAA men's soccer title 2 years ago.
Yes, they did. Yes, Ian McIntyre. But he couldn't shoot the three as well as Leo Routens. So we won't go there.
Well, we'll forgive him for that.
Yeah. So anyway, and you know, a lot of people just sat there and were looking for answers. Whether it's Richie Laria, who you know is probably going to be the next captain, Jonathan Osorio. They're just looking to get back to clarity. They're just looking back to get hard work. I mean, those guys are salt of the earth people, and I believe that the substance of the Canadian soccer scene, because of Richie, because of Kamals of the world, because of Jonathan Osarios of the world, and the makeup of even TFC is good, but it's the infrastructure and the administration that's letting them down right now, and it's the lack of clarity, and it's all the rubbish that went on with the Herdman era there, and all the bells and whistles about FIFA and everything that's going on. It's tainting the reality that our women's team is still a top 5 team in the world, and our men's team is challenging with the Argentinas and the Frances of the world, and we have a great coach, and we're looking good, but the soccer scene in general is bleak. Vancouver looking to sell. Rumors of Montreal following that way of selling, looking to go younger. You know, the community in the cities not sharing profits for the stadiums, not getting the support for those teams. And Toronto FC, there's all kinds of rumors and all kinds of instability. So it's for me, it's a living irony where we have so many good players, so many good national team players playing all over the world and excelling all over the world. Bombito and David and Davies and et cetera and et cetera. And now we can't even get the thing that Toronto is famous and infamous for is getting the administrative part right. It used to be that we didn't have the player pool. It used to be that in 2007 and 2008 when I was at TFC, we didn't have the top Canadians or the, let's say, the know-how to build proper pro teams. Now that we do, it's the administration, it's MLSE that needs to get their stuff right. It's you know, we would go back to Tannenbaums and Petties of the world that need to get their stuff right and start hiring some good people. I mean, obviously we haven't had a lot of great people in this, and obviously Bill Manning took a beating for a lot that happened. But there's a lot of Bazbachenkos out there. There's a lot of Greg Vannies out there that can help fix this situation. We got to go out and find them. We got to be better on that level.
Let me ask you a question, Carm, here. How do you think it affects the CPL? Because the CPL is a breeding ground to MLS. If MLS is the top, CPL just started a few years ago, and they're, you know, leading to MLS. How do you think that affects MLS or CPL?
I mean, I don't think. If you look at, there's not many players that went from CPL to MLS, although that's not the reality of the situation. Yeah. CPL still needs to find, you know, their 10th to 12th team or 9th to 12th team as well, and develop stability in their markets. They have their own issues, but CSB obviously has done some good business with the CSA, which isn't necessarily good business with the CSA, but I won't get into that gong show right now. But CPL has to find their own identity and find, it's in their year 6, and it's been a tamed 6 years, not an explosive 6 years. Like you said, we have not been the breeding ground for MLS. We have developed some young players to get the different to get the different levels, but not enough. And we haven't done a good job of promoting and developing the young Canadian players just yet. So there's a lot to be desired as well in the CPL, but I don't think there's a link. Who knows? Maybe the Vancouvers of the world the Montreals of the world and the Torontos of the world may join into that CPL and make the Canadian game relevant. But the last time I saw the local Canadian game relevant, other than back in the day, Norm will remember the CSL and the NSL, the National Soccer League. When I used to play for Toronto Italia, there was 4,000 a game for sure. And if we played the Croatians, there were 7,000 a game. I haven't seen the game relevant, and I haven't seen the community, the soccer community in general, regardless of the name, except in Halifax, join in, and maybe a little bit Calgary, but join in and really, really, really develop a relationship with the team.
Now, how concerned are you? I'll go first to John. You're in America, and the Americans up, down, and all that. Next year, everybody, the eyes are on America, Canada, and Mexico. How concerned are you if that it's not growing as fast as it was a year ago? Let's say 2 years ago.
Well, I mean, define where you think it's not growing. Let me ask you that.
Well, no, I'm saying in Canada. I don't know if it's growing rapidly in the United States. I know. Well, we established my nephew's playing in Orlando. He's having the time of his life and all that. But in professional, I don't know if it's growing. It may grow in Orlando, but I don't see people coming out from Philadelphia, from Washington, from Hartford.
Well, I mean, you've got multiple levels that you're dealing with here in multiple divisions of the soccer pyramid. So just because you don't see it in the first division doesn't mean that it's not happening in the second or the third division. I think that a lot of the growth in Canada, I think that you also can look at the growth of the women's league that's coming online. I think that that's another key step to not just 2025, but 2027 and 2031. So you can't just lump everything together and sit there and say, well, there isn't growth. You have to sit there and look at it almost at its micro level to apply it to a macro approach or a macro soundbite, however you want to look at it. Just because you don't see growth doesn't mean it's not happening, for like a triple negative in a sentence. Just because you may not see growth doesn't mean that it's not happening in the women's game. Just because you don't see growth doesn't mean that it's not happening when it comes to the men's game in the lower divisions and in the collegiate and all this kind of stuff. It doesn't mean that you don't have collegiate talent in Canada, even though they may not be staying in Canada. It doesn't mean that they're not dropping down and playing in the collegiate game in the United States. And I think that constitutes growth of the Canadian game, even if you do have instances of, say, players that are coming to get scholarships and things like that at the U.S. level. So you be careful making blanket statements about the lack of growth, because lack of growth, you gotta peg down what you're talking about here. I would maintain that there is growth. It's just that you've got to figure out where to look for it. And it's not just because it's not happening at the first division level doesn't mean it's not happening.
All right. Well, is the same question for Carm, and then Norm for Canada? Is there rapid growth, or has it gone stagnant?
I mean, I know in the game and the development of the player, the professional player, other than this group, it's stagnating a bit. The infrastructure has let some of those players down. We're not doing great things at the youth level, youth international level. We're not graduating a lot of TFC academy players into the first team, or even with Whitecaps or Montreal into the first team. There is some. But like I said, I think that growth, it's measurable, but it's secondary right now to the lack of administrative know-how. That's what I'm arguing about right now. And you look at a situation in TFC, you look at Vancouver looking to sell the team. All those things are letting down the growth of the game, whether it's at the youth level or the amateur adult level, or the collegiate level. I think all those things need to be looked at. And these are the things that we're supposed to excel at. So it's like, and I look at an organization like TFC, they have a great academy staff with little clarity, no clarity right now, to be honest, no direction. They have a lot of very, very good players in that academy direction. But again, what is the administrative or the manager or the owner's investment into this game? So I think development and growth, yes, in relative terms, it's been okay. The game is growing as far as numbers. The game is growing as far as visibility. The game is growing as far as the players kind of finding their way to U.S. or Canadian universities. But I still think that the game is stagnated by the crap that's happening at the administrative or the ownership and the management levels. And TSD is a perfect example of that right now.
All right, Norm, let me ask you this. Late 70s, early 80s, nothing better than going to Varsity Stadium, watching soccer, watching Carmen let in 3 goals every game there. So, sorry, Carmen. But what would you do to change around? When we were growing up, it was soccer. There was no Raptors. Okay, even the Argos were more popular at that time than the Maple Leafs. What would you do to get soccer to that level? And again, it's very important because in 2026, the world's coming here.
I don't see where there is a big problem. Actually, I'm going to go along with what John Nelson said. Depends what layer you're talking about. Just because Toronto FC has fallen into the bottom of the barrel, and as Carm's been talking about, maybe there are problems with Montreal.
And Vancouver wants to sell their organization.
Yeah, I was
and
including
Montreal's soon to follow.
I know.
So those are big major issues as far as I can see.
I know, but the point I wanted to make was I see more kids in the area where I live in Forest Hill Village, boys and girls of all ages, wearing soccer cleats and soccer shirts than I do seeing them wearing Blue Jays, Maple Leafs, or Raptors. I'm not exaggerating. When I see them come into Starbucks or wherever, they're just wandering around, I see more kids, and sometimes with their parents on Saturday when I'm walking to work, walking with their kids, and they've got their footy outfits on. So I think it takes a while to translate. And don't forget, not every kid who's playing, high school or elementary school or, local community footy is inclined to, wants to be a pro. Maybe their parents are hoping they can get a scholarship. That's certainly a possibility. But I don't think they look at it. It's like how many are going to the pro level. You got to feed it for a while. And, it's like, to me, I go with the eyeball test. And I did go with my brother Dave, who Carm knows quite well. He used to take me to Toronto Metro's games. I still remember watching, you want to talk about the growth of soccer, I remember watching them in '76 when the NASL Cup was on CBS TV. I was so thrilled as a young Torontonian. Wow, the Toronto Metros are on CBS on national television, and they were playing Minnesota. They beat Minnesota for the NASL league title in 1976. Imagine that, the Toronto Metros. And then years later, they became the Toronto Blizzard, and I'd go to some of their games. And you know what? The NASL blew its brains out, financially speaking, on buying big name, retiring type players like Pele with New York Cosmos. But you know what? The Toronto Blizzard would get, I don't know, it sure looked like they had 15, 20, 25,000 at their games. And especially if it was a team like the Cosmos coming in. So, yeah, they weren't financially stable. They made some errors with their budgets. But I wouldn't say soccer is lacking for popularity or for growth. In fact, I'm sure the data shows that in Canada, the most popular sport for youngsters to participate in without hesitation, boys and girls right across Canada, is in fact soccer. So I think John Nelson's point about let's look at the levels you're talking about. Maybe it hasn't translated to the pros, but that's a matter of luck and possibilities and what the kids, what their focus is in terms of going to school and what other sports they play. And, so that's luck and, genetics. But I don't see, my eyeball test tells me soccer is doing just fine, thank you, in terms of growth, especially at the younger level. Maybe it'll be another 10 years. You'll see some of those kids. And the point about the women's team, there's no lack of success with our women's team, that's for sure. And our men's team has started to step up. So I think, you know what? Thank you very much. I think we're heading in the right direction.
No one's arguing about the visibility or the participation. Everyone, but for this to be successful, we don't need Tottenham. We need Tottenham to be invested. We need Keith Pelly to be invested. We need the Steve Nashes and the ownership at Vancouver to be invested, not to put teams up for sale, not to move them to the US. We need that investment for the game to have a purpose, a light at the end of the tunnel. No one's questioning the fact that it's the most participated sport in the world. There has to be that investment, that professional investment in the game. And now it's a trying time, Norm, because you're hearing Joey Saputo wanting to move away, wanting to sell the team. You're hearing the Vancouver ownership group and the rumors that Keith Pelly and the MLSD want to get rid of Toronto FC as well. I hope that never happens because there's an amazing following, and ever since we kicked the first ball, no one's arguing about that type of visibility and growth and participation. We're arguing about the highest level of the game, the investment at the highest level of the game. People kind of giving up, and all the crap that's happened around it is probably the impetus to all this. And for all the good of making the World Cup and doing everything that group did, there's this situation and other situations that have surrounded it, and the lack of developing Bazbachenkos, Canadian Bazbachenkos, and Canadian, we'll say Greg Vannies, is the issue. But that's why I bring it up again. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time for someone like Bobby Smirnos to get an opportunity to fail. And imagine if he's successful and how great that story would be. Yes, Joe. Me too. I deserve the opportunity too, for sure.
See, finally, John, I convinced this guy. I convinced him. All right, enough of the soccer talk, because we have another critical thing in Canada. It's called hockey. We finished 5th place for a second straight year at the World Juniors, and I'm blaming Carmen Asako for that. I brought in, Justin Levine here. Justin's going to join us in a couple seconds. Here he is. Justin Levine here. Team Canada finished 5th in the World Juniors once again, while John's native land, and actually my native land now, since we're the 51st state, America, has won 2 in a row, Norm. 2 in a row, gold medals at the World Juniors. Justin, I know you're Canadian American because it's 51st state. How happy are you that Canada finished 5th and America, God bless America, finishes 1st? I know Carmen, look at his face. He's ecstatic.
Well, the optics for Canada aren't good. When you finish 5th 2 years in a row, there's a real problem, and that has to be assessed within Hockey Canada. And I mean, just to kind of reiterate the words of Scott Salmon, the senior vice president of the World Junior team, they have to be better, and they're committed to that. But change starts internally, and that means starting with the head coach, who, in my opinion, selected the wrong team. He left some of the greatest players for Canada at home, and there was not really a justification as to why that happened. So the problem starts there. And then on top of that, saying that they canceled all their practices at a tournament when you need to be at your best because, they're tired and there's no system for exhausted hockey players. Unfortunately, this is a short tournament, and therefore it's a taxing tournament. But that means they need to be at their best, and they need to be utilized properly during that time. And they weren't. And it was a slap in the face to all Canadians who are watching and who are fans. So unfortunately, it's not the results that we wanted. But hopefully next year in Minnesota looks a lot better.
All right, John, you're the only American on staff here. America won the gold medal for the 2nd year in a row. Mm-hmm. Is America talking about it in Atlanta where you're at?
No.
No. All right. At least he's honest, right? And next year, the World Juniors are in Minnesota, like Justin said. Are they going to talk about that? Do they get excited for 1 week of the year?
Absolutely they will. Yeah, no, it's here south of the Mason-Dixon line. It is discussions about getting ready for training camp, because we're maybe a month away from training camp in Major League Soccer and stuff like that. Maybe the Atlanta Hawks are getting a part of the conversation. You're still talking about college football because college football season isn't over. So, and one of the teams that's in the Final Four is in the Southeastern Football Conference. So the short answer about the World Juniors, you've got to be a world junior Nick. You've got to be a hockey Nick to absolutely be discussing that right here, right now. Fantastic that the United States won it for the second year in a row. Whoop whoop. I'm not quoting the great Arn Anderson. I'm not one to toot my own horn, but toot toot. But right now, it is so far back in the conversation because, like I said, we still got college football to talk about. So it's nowhere close to front and center. When it gets in Minnesota next year, guarantee it's going to be front and center north of the Mason-Dixon line, especially in the Midwestern United States because of where it's held and the time of year. But we still got the National Football League going on. The National Football League just wrapped up the regular season.
But everybody knows the Buffalo Bills are going to win the Super Bowl. Even Norma agrees with me this year.
You're a funny dude.
Carm, I'm going to ask you, Miami losing to the New York Jets? You're a fan of the Dolphins. Now, are you going to go fishing all the time? You're a fan of the Dolphins, I say. You're losing to the New York Jets, who have a quarterback of 465 years old.
Well, that's a Dolphins problem.
Regardless, the Bulls will find a way to lose. The Bills will find a way to lose.
That's right, the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls will find a way to lose. The Buffalo Bills will win.
The Buffalo Bulls won the Bahamas Bowl, so they didn't find a way to lose. So,
University of Buffalo, that's it.
All right. They beat Liberty in the Bahamas Bowl, so they did not find a way to lose.
All right, getting back to hockey for a second. 2:30 in the morning, this guy, Norm Rumack, texts me, did you watch the 15-round shootout between Czech and Sweden? So what is your opinion, Norm, waking me up at 2:30 in the morning?
Oh, no, I was waking you up because I got a note from Netflix.
Oh, okay. And what are you doing watching Netflix at 2:30 in the morning? Are you watching the same show Carmen does?
No, Norm was just getting home at 2:30 in the morning.
He was watching a documentary about a Sherpa lady who was in her 50s who climbed, maybe Johnny Nelson might remember this one. Oh, you don't? Okay.
Justin looks
She set a record for a woman climbing, successfully reaching the summit or summiting Mount Everest 10 times.
Yeah, that's enough.
10 times.
No.
And absolutely, I don't care whether you're a fan of climbing or not. I mean, just the thought of Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world. And then there's another peak called X2 or 2X. It's the second.
Bore the fans who are watching this right
now. I was watching on Netflix, and they were curious about the FiredUp Network watching Netflix too.
Speaking about Netflix, Norm, I know you're going to watch it tonight. John's eyes are open and all that. Tonight, the world stops. 8 o'clock tonight. Justin, Netflix, 8 p.m. WWE's debut on Raw. $5 billion. $5 billion. Netflix, Raw. Carmen, you going to watch?
No.
John Cena, you can't see John Cena then. All right, so $5 billion on Netflix. But get back to Justin here. Justin was at the Leaf game last night. And Norm, you love the Maple Leafs. You're the biggest leaf blower, all right? Do you see that the Maple Leafs, John, come on. You know he's the biggest leaf blower. He wouldn't trade Clark for Fedorov. Come on, all right? So do you see the Maple Leafs potentially doing something this year in the playoffs? I know Carm wants to know.
Justin, is that a question to me or to Norm?
No, to you.
They're playing great hockey right now. They really are. Like, this is a team that's won 5 of their last 6 games, and it just seems everything's clicking. Yes, they've had problems with Austin Matthews this year due to a lingering injury, but with or without him, they've been great. They've been producing. Every line seems to right now be clicking, and I think that's a testament to the commitment that they're having with each other, knowing, again, what's at stake, and with a new head coach and all of that. And for the first time in a while, this looks like a team that really has a chance at the Stanley Cup. So far this season, I've been impressed. We're seeing a lot more wins on the calendar than losses. And again, that's a testament to the hard work and commitment that they've made to Berube and that they've made among each other. So, it's early January. There's still a long season left, but they've been off to a great start, and I look forward to seeing what else they have in store.
All right. Some breaking news here, and this is maybe exclusive to me. I know John, Carm, Norm would want to know about this. The New England Patriots fired their coach, Mayo, 3 minutes after they beat some team from Buffalo.
Wasted no time.
Yeah. Do you know why? This is stunning to everybody. They thought, Kraft loves mayo and all that. Apparently,
Kraft loves
because,
mayo. Uh-huh.
because because they won the game, he got fired. Because if they would have lost, he had the number one pick in the draft. And they won the game. They dropped down to number 4. Kraft didn't like it. He got fired. And it looks like former Patriot, former Tennessee Titan coach Vrabel is on the list to be the new head coach of the New England Patriots.
Not
Now,
so. Mhm.
here's the real big news. As you know, Bill Belichick went from New England to coach North Carolina for
Yep.
3 days. Apparently, there's an out, and he's very interested in coaching a certain team. John, what do you say about that?
Stop.
Well, this is the source. There's better sources than Norm Rumack has with that Mr. Berger there. Come on. By the way, special shout out. Hopefully you enjoy your daughter's birthday. 600 times I read it. All right, so go ahead.
Stop.
Yeah, that's right. Stop.
Not happening. Stop. There's a reason that he took the North Carolina job. It was to set his son up to be the head coach after time. It's not after months that he's setting up his son to be the new head coach at the University of North Carolina. And it's a lot less headaches than it is dealing with the National Football League, dealing with NIL and the ACC. So I'm going to go ahead and put a stop to that right now.
All right, so we got a couple minutes here. So, John, I'll start off with you. We'll go around the table here. The Final Four in NCAA football. Who's the final 2 playing January 20th in the championship game?
Let's see. So let's go with somebody not Penn State and somebody not Texas. How about that?
Okay, Norm, not Penn State, Texas. Go ahead. Now he's going to pick Penn State and Texas. So go ahead, Norm. Who's your pick?
Well, I haven't had a chance to watch them, to be honest with you. So I'm just picking names out of a hat.
Yeah,
I know.
Well, I was waiting for that.
You know what? We'll see where they finish the end of the year, because they won pretty decisively over. They're the ones that knocked Miami out of the bowl pictures. So it's a pretty impressive win, beating the University of Miami Hurricanes the last game of the year. But having said
1984.
No, I would say in this year too. The University of Miami Hurricanes have an NFL-bound quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. John Nelson. So
yep, Cam Ward. That is true. Yes.
Yeah, so they're not exactly pushovers. So we beat them by 17 points. It's a pretty impressive win for Fran Brown.
It is.
And his staff there at Syracuse. Mm-hmm. So anyway, having said that, and then we won our Holiday Bowl game, by the way. Just thought I'd mention that as well. Washington State. Okay, so you're asking me, assuming they're still alive in the country. Assuming I still have time, I'll squeak it in.
All right,
the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame.
All right, Carm, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, as long as Northern Illinois is not playing Notre Dame, I think they got a shot.
All right.
There you go. Yeah.
Justin, we'll close out with, we talked about Lady Soccer. Let's close out with talking about ladies hockey, the WHL. Special birthday shout out, because I saw it all over social media like 600 times, was Sarah Nurse 30th birthday. Norm, do you want to sing happy birthday to Sarah Nurse?
Oh, God.
I don't want to insult her by singing, but happy birthday, Sarah Nurse. And if I'm not mistaken, Sarah Nurse is the niece of former Syracuse great Donovan McNabb. Donovan married, I believe it was, I'm trying to remember his wife, because she played basketball at Syracuse. So
yeah.
she was in that, she was in the Nurse family. So yeah, there's a relation there with Donovan McNabb, the former Syracuse great. So good for Sarah Nurse. And it's a very athletic family there. Obviously, her brother playing with the Edmonton Oilers. So they've done.
Nurse and Nakia Nurse also is there in WNBA. So
yeah. So very athletic. So happy birthday, Sarah. I don't know you, I haven't met you, but good stuff for you.
Are you asking for a date with Sarah Nurse?
No, Joe, I'm just complimenting her on her athletic accomplishments.
All right. So, Justin, go ahead. PWHL, basically a month into the season, and I got to say, the Toronto Scepters, very disappointing so far.
Yeah, it's been unfortunately not the way they thought things would be going. They signed Daryl Watts to a 2-year deal before the season started, hoping that she would complement their top line without Natalie Spooner, who's out injured right now. That obviously hasn't happened, and it's a shame because they are getting some offense, but it's not enough. They re-signed Hannah Miller, who was an offensive juggernaut for them last year, and she is scoring. But I just I think there's a chemistry issue that again, look, new year, new faces, it's gonna happen, right? But we're into January now, and there's just something missing. So is that one thing, Natalie Spooner? Probably. But goaltending also is a little bit of an issue. They added a new face, Reagan Kirk, to complement Kristen Campbell this year after Erica Howe retired. And Kirk's been good so far. It's been Campbell who has surprisingly struggled a little bit. But then again, if we look back to last year, the Scepters struggled to open the year, and then they finished with a bang after an 11-game win streak and almost got themselves into the Walter Cup finals. So, it's January, it's early, anything is possible. But yes, they're off to a rough start. They're in 5th place right now with just 7 points, but 6th place, that is. But there's plenty of time to move up. Boston is just ahead of them after beating Montreal yesterday in Seattle. Montreal's in 1st place, and Ottawa's in 3rd. So there's a lot of movement. Still, players are still being signed to contracts. Ottawa signed Sam Isbell earlier today. So they have got plenty of time to turn it around. Natalie Spooner is coming back. They're also going to get back at some point newly signed defender Megan Carter, who was also drafted in Minnesota during the last draft. So there will be change, and the wins will come. Question is just when.
All right, that's the PWHL, and we'll have Taylor Woods and Digit Murphy joining us very soon, about a week or two. All right, so we'll go around the table with closing thoughts as we close out Fired Up Live here on the Fired Up Network. Start off with Carmen Asako. Anything you're scratching your head? Anything you want to talk about as we close it out, Carm?
No, great year of football. A lot of today was a disaster. Inter winning 2-0 against AC Milan.
2-0. Like, how many times do I have to teach you?
2-0. Regardless, it finished 3-2 AC Milan.
That's what you get for playing a Supercopa not in your home country.
Well, how much did the Saudi Arabians pay them?
$11 billion.
There you go, $11 billion. So, yeah, enjoy it. Lots of good football happening. Chelsea gonna head down the land of mediocrity very soon, because that's where Maresca says they should be. Liverpool, wow. Slot, wow. But you know what? I can't remember this where I read this comment or I heard this comment, but Klopp, they said that Klopp managed to do something that Alex Ferguson could never do, and that's leave his group in a very, very good situation, right? It wasn't Alex left a kind of sinking ship and never righted it, or never. But Klopp, I think, has a lot to do with the consistency and the ability to win, and leaving Slot, who's a very good coach, mind you, not taking nothing away from him, with a very good situation for his predecessor.
Carm, I got to tell you this. You're sitting here with 3 guys, me, Norm, and Justin. We're all Jewish. I thought at least the year I had last year, you would give me some geld, some shekels for Hanukkah present. Even Norm was expecting that. I'm very disappointed. The verse, I've never seen it in 2025. I didn't get any chocolate, money there. Look, he even got. Carm, what's going on here? Is it because of Norm? Is it because of Norm?
No, I give you my substance. You don't need physical things. I give you my heart and soul. There you go.
No, according to the real Carmen Asako, that's not true. This show proven you didn't give 100%. I need 100% from you. What is it?
Your good Jewish background says that you don't need things to make you happy. You need people
No,
and
you're right.
love and
You're
kindness.
right. But your wallet makes me happy. All right, Norm. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll respectfully disagree with my friend Carm there about Enzo Maresca. Just respectfully, I'll say good for him. He's put himself on the dartboard, taken the heat for the youngest team on average in the Premier League, and one that uses very much so their academy players. And I'm pretty excited about the future under Enzo Maresca. The players love him, and I think he knows exactly what he's doing. And he said right away he wasn't hired with the proviso that they make the Champions League, they make top six. They hired him with the proviso that overall they improve the players and improve the club. And considering how they played for the most part this year, including against. By the way, where is Swansea playing these days, John Nelson? I've
Here
lost
you
track
go.
of your favorite team. Where are they playing? Are they still located in Wales?
They're still located in Wales, yes. They're still in the championship, yes. That's who they are. They're a championship team.
Okay, all right. Anyway, I heard you coughing. I thought maybe you wanted to get a word in about Swansea. So
No.
It's amazing. It's amazing that you're saying they use
I love
academy
what
players.
Maresca is doing. And having said that, up the Chels.
All right. And tell everybody how to get a hold of you, Norm.
You can find John Nelson's using sign
All right,
language.
I'm gonna cut him off. Come on.
No, you can find me here on the Fired Up Network frequently with John Nelson and Carm as well. John John can entertain with his hands and his fingers. Never mind just his voice.
By the way, anybody in Saudi Arabia want to get a hold of Carmen Asako, go through me. Carmen Asako would move to Saudi Arabia for a coaching job, right, Carm?
No.
Could the Carm listen? No. What do you mean? No. If they overpay, yes. Give me Daniel Bryan. All right,
Nope.
John Freeman Nelson, the Hall of Famer. You can read his book there. Go ahead.
Easiest way to get the book is on the Amazons. And your favorite ways to pick up books: Noble Strong Lessons in Destiny. Pick that up right there on your Amazons. Great book about a great family in a small town and what football means on Football Friday nights. So go right there. Pick it up. Book number 6 right there.
And by the way, John, you could hear John and see John on Soccer Down here every Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. till 11:30ish, something like that. And then played here about 1 o'clock on the Fired Up Network.
Right on.
And John, I'll close it with you and then go to Justin here. It's Wild Card Weekend. I got to ask you your picks. I know who you're picking between Buffalo and Denver, so skip that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one. Yeah.
That is an easy one.
Yeah.
Right, Norm, and right, Carm?
Oh, God.
Well, I hope so for Buffalo Bills fans. It better be an easy one.
Well, that's not going to be that easy, but it's still going to be a win.
Well, one thing for sure is they don't mind cold weather. That we know. So they're not going to be intimidated by cold Orchard Park.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Stop bothering John Freeman Nelson now. Go ahead, John, with the other 3 games.
So let's see. What are the games, by the way?
LA Chargers, Houston.
Let's go with the Chargers.
And Pittsburgh at Baltimore.
Let's go Baltimore.
Wrong. Then you got Buffalo. We established that already. Then Green Bay, Philadelphia. Tampa Bay playing. Tampa Bay, by the way, is the 3rd seed now. Tampa Bay, the 3rd seed against Washington. That's could be a surprise there also.
I got to go with the Commanders in that one.
All right, and then Minnesota, who lost last night, and now they have to travel out west to the Rams Monday night to take on the Rams.
Won't make a difference. It's Minnesota.
All right. Do you guys agree with those picks, Norm and Carm?
Yep.
No.
I think they're spot on.
Oh, he doesn't agree. Carm, what?
I think the Rams are going to get back to the Super Bowl.
This guy's dreaming more than he's going to get a job in Saudi. All right. All right, Justin, as we close it out, any last comments here, Justin?
Yeah, it was. If you look at the Leafs game last night, really impressed with the level of compete between Toronto and Philadelphia. Really even match game for most of last night. Again, went to overtime. Fairly well played on both sides, and I think that's complementing both head coaches and their styles. And it was a really good game.
JL is all business. He's always all business. BID apostrophe.
Yeah, okay, Dusty. All right. So, Justin, what do you think of the goaltending? He's 6'7", Hillemy.
Yeah, Hildeby's been actually really good recently. His last couple of starts, specifically with the Leafs, have all been wins. He's also been strong with the Marlies. I work with MLSE. I've been doing a lot of Marlies games recently, so I've
Hold
seen.
on. Did you hear what he said, Norm? He graduated from the Fired Up Network. Then he went to Toronto 6 as the media representative. Now he's working for MLSE. He's close to Tannenbaum, and he's close to the guys who make the choices. Carm, you got to talk to Justin now. He can make something happen for TFC.
Does he know who Bill Barber is?
No.
Does he know who the Broad Street Bullies were? Those were real Leafs versus Flyer games.
This
not
guy's a
last night.
youngster, man. He's a youngster. Leave him alone. By the
Ed
way,
Those bench series with the Leafs and the Flyers were the best entertainment I ever saw in hockey in 76 and 77. It was by far the most compelling, one of the most, outside of a Stanley Cup final, and the Leafs haven't been there since 67. Outside of that, the most compelling playoff series the Leafs have ever played were the two of them, a 6-game series in 76 and a 7-game series in 77, both with the Philadelphia Flyers. The Leafs were up in the 77 series, 3-1, and then they lost a game in overtime at home, and that was the end of that. But that was a good point that Carm made about the Leafs and the Flyers. If you were privileged enough to be around to watch those, you'll never see anything as entertaining as that again, ever, guaranteed.
Carm wants to know.
The Watson brothers, Don Selesky, otherwise known as Big Bird, Ed Van Impe, and Ross Lonsbury. Bernie Perron.
Don't forget Hound Dog Kelly.
Yes, absolutely.
Carm wants to know.
Your YouTube search, by the way.
Were there better brawls at the Whiskey than at Maple Leaf Gardens?
There was no whiskey in 77, 76, my friend.
All right, so for John Freeman Nelson, pick up his book. Check out Soccer Down Here on the Fired Up Network and Soccer Down Here network. For Norm Rumack, check him out. Norman Rumack, he'll be back here either Sunday or Monday on the Fired Up Network. I signed him to big long-term contract. For Carmen Asako, and by the way, Saudis, my phone should be ringing.
All the Canadian Tire bucks go to Norm, by the way.
Yeah, that's right. There's no Canadian Tire money anyways now. See, 2025, everything changes. And for Justin Levine, congratulations on the MLSE job, Justin. And Justin will be back here to talk about junior hockey, world hockey, and ladies hockey soon on the Fired Up Network. Happy New Year, everybody. And we'll be back here soon to do it once again. Thanks a lot, guys.